The USS Cairo disappeared on patrol in the Romulan neutral zone. The Dominion has invaded Beta Z, and real Calival should forcibly open one's sinuses before the first sip, of course. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19. This is the one, everybody, In the Pale Moonlight, story by Peter Allen Fields, teleplay by Michael Taylor, and directed by Victor Lobel. This is April 15th, 1998. Hey, tax day, cool. And at the top, we'd like to give a very special thanks to Tristan Van Oss and the enigma known as Medallion for this episode. How you doing, Cirroc?
Sweet. Wow, what an episode.
That's why Tristan Van Oss and Medallion were like, I want this one.
I don't blame them. This is the one. Also want to give a story by credit to Peter Allen Fields, who came up with this idea. So, and what an idea it is.
So this is one of these times where I'm like, okay, I know we both have a ton to say. Where do we start with this? First of all, I know where to start. Cirroc, I love your shirt. Your sister made it at her online store, abyssiniankiosk.com. Check it out in the description box below. It's definitely one of my favorite creations of hers. The color scheme is awesome. It is the continent of Africa, and I love it. Go get yours today.
I do love the shirt. Ages well. The more you wash it, the more vintage it kind of feels. So some shirts are just like that, and kind of luck of the draw on those kinds of things. But yes, where to start? I think we got to start with the opening scene. Like, it really starts with Sisko by himself having this kind of conversation with himself in this kind of psychoanalyzing what he's done and the decisions that he's forced to make and positions he's been put in.
Yeah. And
I love the way that it opens like that, because I actually feel like this could have been the blueprint for this show, as far as Sisko kind of starting with these kinds of conversations with himself. Mm-hmm. He talks about, I can't say this to Dax. I can't say this to anybody. There's no one else. There's no one I can talk to. So I have to air this out with the computer. And I love that. I love that concept.
This is like the quintessential Sisko episode. Sisko goes through a lot of kind of changes and a metamorphosis as the seasons go. Some of it is, through the writing. Some of it is the way he looks. Some of it is just when the writers allowed him to play the type of character that he's best at, rather than fit him into what they were looking for initially for season 1 and 2, etc. But this, to a lot of the fans, is the quintessential Captain Sisko episode. It's just so many memes have come from it. There's this one. This is one of the possibly the most famous Sisko picture. There's also another one. I don't remember the episode, but when they're down on a planet like last season, and he's pointing, he's like, "Get that man out of here," or something like that. That's another one. But the biggest one, the biggest meme that everybody knows is what's his name? Senator Vreenak, right? Senator, when he holds up that rod, that data rod, and he goes, "It's a fake," right?
Yeah.
That image of him, "It's a fake," is as big as Kirk saying "Khan."
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And do they substitute whatever's in his hand with something else, or they just use that image exactly how it is?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Cirroc, and I tried to find the image, but there was one time that I saw, and I can't find it right now, but there was one time that I saw where instead of the data rod, and I feel like I may have shown this to you, and instead of the data rod, they have a little Jake Sisko there, and it says, It's a Jake. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. That's the only time I've ever seen them like change what's in his hand and alter what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely need one of those on a t-shirt. Yeah, I love this episode, man. The pace of it is amazing. The gravity of the situation is intense. You know, we've got we're really starting on this Dominion War and seeing that the casualties that it's taking. We see the list that Sisko has to put on that bulletin every day, and and face his own crew's morale kind of deflating as they see friends and family and people that they're colleagues that are falling victim to this war. And that, I think, sets the tone for the gravity of the situation and how much is at stake for Sisko and the decision that he has to be that he's forced to kind of make in these moments.
Yeah, it really does. Every once in a while they have an episode that kind of sets the table and reminds us we are at war. It sucks. Sometimes they have a light episode within the Dominion War, but a lot of times they have to kind of bring an episode that grounds us and says, we are still at war. There are many deaths. People are dying that we actually know, and it's so good. It's very rare in Star Trek to have episodes like this where they really slog through the depths of war. Most Star Trek series and episodes are about preventing war. Captain Picard saving the day and preventing a war. Catherine Janeway showing up when their two races are at war and she negotiates a peace treaty between the two or something. That's kind of what it's about. But Deep Space Nine examines what if all else failed and we actually were at war, and they really just swim through the mud and the muck and the darkness, and the death and the
because what we traditionally
I lost you there for a second.
Ryan, are you there?
Yeah. Sorry, there you are.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I lost my signal, but
no problem.
But yeah, no. What I love the fact that what they're doing is also showing kind of the ugliness of war, the decisions that may be compromising whatever morality that we naturally have as human beings, and having to weigh this idea of lesser of two evils or the greater good. I think that what Sisko is faced with here is a moral dilemma. And yet the stakes are so high that he's almost willing to do anything it takes. He starts off the script with saying, I have to justify what's happened, what I've done, at least to myself. And so that set the stage for the whole thing.
I was wondering, is that the kind of thing that makes you, a first-time viewer, mentally lean in? Like, oh boy.
Yes.
Whoa, yes. Sisko's gone dark. He's done something he's not proud of. This is interesting.
Right away, when he says, I have to justify what I've done, at least to myself, then we already know, boom. And he says, I can't talk to anybody else. Dax doesn't understand. So we already know the gravity of this. This is like something personal. This is an insight into Sisko's mind, which he wouldn't let otherwise be exposed to anybody in a conversation, right? This is his inner thoughts. This is his intimate ideas. And that's why I think we could have used more of this throughout the show to kind of really get inside Sisko's head more, because I love this. I love getting inside of Sisko's head.
Right.
And he's amazing at performing these kinds of pieces in which you are inside his head. And so he's convincing himself, he's convincing the audience, he's masterful at these kinds of performances. And I think I just kept writing A plus plus as if I was grading a paper.
Yes.
As if I was a teacher grading a paper. I wrote A plus plus, A plus plus. Very few times that I have 2 pages of notes. This is just like I couldn't fill it all in one page. I had to get another page, almost 3 pages where
wow, that's a record.
It is a record. And it was just that much in it. For example, when he says that was the moment, it was like I stepped through a door. Boom. It's just those little moments where he's telling you, now I'm about to go. Like he's telling you what's happening. And I love these kinds of narrations too, by the way. I'm a big fan of what was that show called The Wonder Years with Fred Savage and Dan Lauria?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
And there was a narration inside of that show, which I just love it when they narrate story. Princess Bride is another movie with Peter Falk, where he's narrating at certain points about what's happening.
Wallace Shawn, our buddy. Yeah.
Wallace Shawn. Yeah. So I love when people give you that extra voice of insight in an episode or, on screen and cinematically. And that's what I got in this episode. So I was just like, I was hooked from the beginning and it just kept me rolling.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I didn't want to say anything ahead of time to prepare you or to warn you or to, anything to influence you in any way. And I was hoping that you would show up here with big eyes like, holy shit, because this is a holy shit episode.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Would you say, this is kind of going crazy here in the middle of a segment, would you say this is the best episode you've ever seen? I know.
Yeah. It's funny because as I was watching this, I thought to myself how many times I said, this is the best episode I've ever seen. So, it's like, how many times have we said this? I've said this with Far Beyond the Star. I said this with The Visitor. I said the Duet. These are amazing. They're not like just okay. These are like masterpiece episodes. So I've said that many times now watching the show, and that's why I feel like, wow, it just doesn't let up. It always gives me that. It doesn't always give you that one. There'll be a filler episode here and there, a little, little comedy or a sidetrack episode about one particular character. But when they get on pace, on track for whatever the story, the main line of the story, which they've done an excellent job of setting up this whole Dominion War, the Jem'Hadar, the Vorta, the Founders. I mean, how it ties into Odo and how it ties into, what everybody's doing, how they all have their things in the fire, their coal in the fire, their rakes in the fire. Each one of them has some kind of connection to this. And the way they've built this up with so many layers, and now we're getting to the Romulans and getting them enticed into the war. This is like upping the stakes to the maximum level. And there were so many good things in this episode. The Romulans are now allowing the Jem'Hadar to use their airspace to attack. These are actually war type strategies and war type conversations, right?
Yeah, walking into their backyard to give your enemy a bloody nose, right? Great little analogy that Dax made. Sometimes the analogies are a little silly, but sometimes they really work, like that one was. That one was a great one. And there wasn't a B plot, which is cool. It just followed one man's story. This was a Sisko and Garrick episode. A lot of people think this might be Sisko's best episode, certainly one of them. A lot of people think that this is certainly one of Garrick's best episodes as well, even though he's not like the main character of this episode, but we certainly get a lot of good Garrick.
I'm glad you said that, because Andrew Robinson is fantastic in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
He plays this coy. He's waiting to be convinced by Sisko to do it, right? He already wants to do it. Like this, he's being given the green light to basically, yield the kind of power that, unlimited power, right? Anybody can be killed, anybody can, whatever you've got to do to get this done. I'll get people out of jail. I'll forge things. I'll give out biogenetic weapon material to an unknown group.
To who the fuck knows? He's like, I don't know. Just don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Yeah. And you see Bashir. He's like, I'm gonna have to write this up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna I have an ethics. I live by a code of ethics. I'm going to have to this is not on me, bro. This is on you.
And he has to make it official, not just say it.
Right.
He's like, I got to put this in writing, dude.
Yeah. And Sisko's like, I knew you'd say that. Here you go. It's on me, right? So if some planet blows up somewhere with some biogenetic weapon because of what you just did, that's on you, Sisko, because I got it in writing. I had nothing to do with it. I objected to it. I wrote Starfleet. I told them about it. And yet Sisko says he has Starfleet's approval. So, and this is something that goes on every day in all type of countries and different governments, these kind of covert, off the record type of activities that are, meant to basically kind of win, right? To get you to win in some type of way or another. However, you've got to manufacture the win. Your ultimate and final objective is to win, right? Not lose, essentially. And so it's very real that what they're talking about. And I think Garrick once been. I'm sorry, I kind of went off course, but
that's okay. I know there's a ton.
Going back to Andrew Robinson, what Garrick does, what Andrew Robinson does, the whole time he's like, so you're saying I have to? Oh well, and it's like, tell me more. Mm-hmm. What else would you like?
Oh, convince me. Boy, twist my arm.
Yeah. So I love the dynamic there.
Yeah, there's so much you touched on there, but I want to talk about all of it. Obviously, it's all stuff that I was thinking about when I was watching. But one thing I hadn't thought of was with regards to Garrick's character. For all we know, he could have very well just lied to Sisko and said, "Oh, all my connections got killed, and so this is the way we have to do it." Sisko didn't verify that. What if he just made the whole thing? Because remember, at the end, Sisko was kind of a pawn in Garrick's game, where Garrick was like, "Oh yeah, I led you to believe all that stuff just because probably it was going to go this way." And what if all of his connections weren't killed, which is what led them down that path of having to do it this way? What if he didn't even contact his connections? What if he was just like, okay, Sisko's not going to agree to this unless he's forced to, and this. So he just, cracks open this plan. It's entirely possible. We never even find out if he just might have just bullshitted the whole thing just because he was like, there's only one way to guarantee this is going to work.
There is a line from Scarface, I believe it is, and I think it was Tony Montana, Al Pacino, who said, "I always tell the truth, even when I lie."
That's a Garrick sounding line. Yeah. Yeah.
That reminds me of Garrick. It's like Garrick, we don't know if he's telling the truth or not. That's the beauty of Garrick. It's like, you don't know when he's lying. You don't know. Most people you can kind of gauge and say that's a lie. That's not
right.
But with him, he's so clever. He's so smooth about how he delivers it, and he throws things away. It's kind of left up to it's left up to you. What do you think? Is it true or not? And really, it doesn't matter, because Garrick always presents you with one choice. He acts like it's two choices, but he only gives you the one. Yeah. Right? He's like, we could do it like this, or we could just all die over here. So
the choice is yours.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Garrick's way of presenting things, and I think it's remarkable here. And I think the final scene with him and Sisko is probably the best scene with two characters in it, because Sisko had the best scene, I think, by himself with nobody in it. But the best scene with two characters was the final scene with Andrew Robinson and Avery, where the two of them kind of go, where he comes in and he slaps him out.
Yeah.
He starts whooping his ass like, you pissed me off. You're like, you got over on me. You tricked me. And Garrick's like, stop. All right, calm down. If you just let your ego and your hurt feelings get out of the way, you knew that I was going to do this. And that was one of my favorite lines, in this whole episode, was that where he says, that's why you came to me, isn't it, Captain?
Yeah.
You knew I could do these things that you weren't capable of doing. Well, it worked. And that was just like golden.
It's like that line that you're saying. I always tell the truth, even when I lie. This is like he carries out the mission even under the pretenses that the mission was to be carried out in a different way. Because the bottom line, the emotional truth behind it was Sisko was like, I need to find somebody that's going to carry this out no matter what. They can figure out the details as much as they want, but really the real thing was just whatever it takes. And that's what's funny about that is it brought me to a point which is exactly the same discussion we had last week. Last week with the Inquisition in Section 31, we were talking about, does the ends justify the means?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an even bigger example of the ends justify the means, which is Garrick's brilliant line of, I don't want, let me not misquote it. He says, you have saved the entire Alpha Quadrant, and all it cost was the life of one Romulan senator, one criminal, and the self-respect of one Starfleet officer. I don't know about you, but I call that a bargain. You can't beat it.
You can't beat that. And that's what I found myself doing, is like literally writing down the line. It was like I wanted to write the whole script down. I could have sat there and just wrote line for line the whole script. I
did do that for Sisko's final monologue. I couldn't help it. I just started typing, and I was like, "You just keep singing, Sisko. I'm typing away. I got this whole thing. I got you, man. I got you." I was a stenographer.
Yeah, it's a stenographer. That's how I felt as well. When I was a kid in junior high school and high school, when new songs came out, we would write them all down, all the lyrics down. It was the thing to do. It was before they actually even had the lyrics published, sometimes in the inside of the CD kit cover.
CD,
cassette, right? So we would just write it down ourselves, and we would write all that, and we'd pass it around. So it would be like, yo, that's that new song. Kids in school would get the new lyrics. And for me, it was like that. It was like, pause, Sisko, you got it, man. Play, pause, you got it. Play, pause, over and over again. It was just a bunch of that. Even with Dax, I love the scene between Sisko and Dax in the beginning. The whole where she's playing the devil's advocate Romulan type of character.
Very well, yeah.
Coming back at Sisko, like, I don't believe you. I need proof, and the whole proof of dominion duplicity is, and not just words. That was like. It was another beautiful moment. It was like, okay. And Sisko walks around like, you're right. That's how it'll go out. That's how it'll play out.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, flash forward later on, this Romulan senator, by the way, who was very good at playing a guy that I hated, that I actually didn't mind. Like, so they must have made him somebody. They must have made him so crass and vulgar so that you wouldn't be so sad when he died at the end, right? I think there must have been some level of that.
Yeah, good point.
Because both him and the criminal or whatever he is were kind of guys that you were like,
I wouldn't be so happy.
They could go.
If he got
no big deal.
Exactly. So it must have been an intentional thing because, you watch Romulan, for example, the Romulan in Discovery, the woman in, who's the president, right?
Oh, Vulcan,
involved with
Tarina. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, super compassionate, somebody you care for. You'd hate to see something happen to her. But this guy, he seemed like such a jerk. He was like, he walks on the ship and he's like, yeah, I don't mind taking a look around and, before this place gets destroyed. He's such a jerk, right? He was
throwing fireballs at him, man. I loved it. Hang on, we got to jump to our break already. But I definitely want to talk more about him, and I definitely also want to talk more about what the point of this story was, and it's kind of what we have seen in the military and governments do, like what you touched on, and we'll talk a bit more about that because I think that's a really big point. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule